The Yu-Gi-Oh! European Championship helped us figure out which decks were the contenders and also revealed which decks were really just pretending. What's going on with y'all, big dog? And it is an amazing day for Yu-Gi-Oh! I hope that your day is going phenomenal. But if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your day ruin the rest of your day. The European Championship happened just this weekend, and there was so much jam-packed information we figured out about this format. Not only did I talk about it in yesterday's meta analysis, go ahead and check out that video if you want to see it, but it also did reveal a shakeup in the meta, and we're going to throw it in the tier list form for the glue eaters. And I ain't gonna cap, I like glue myself sometimes. I mean, if I could take the easy route to getting information, this video just might be it. Of course, we're gonna make some incredibly bold takes about certain strategies, but I'm also gonna be explaining to you why I think these decks are so high or so low. If you guys don't agree, then go ahead and let me know down below in the comment section. And if I missed your favorite deck, let me know. I'll try to include it in the next tier list. Let's go ahead and jump on in, as I have 5 different categories this time around, and they're going to be fairly simple. Meta changers are the cream de la crop. These are the tier 1 decks, but they define the meta. Tier 1 decks are really good decks that can compete in the format, but don't necessarily define or dictate the cards that we play. Tier 2 decks can still be fairly competitive at a local or a regional level event, but in the highest of highest level events, it is a little bit of a struggle. And rogue decks are still fairly powerful at a local level scene, but can struggle at the higher levels of play, as while some of them may have a counter against some of the higher decks, they may struggle against others. Casual is literally, oh no, what are you doing, baby? It's Arby's. It's glue eating tier. It is literally the strategies that you want to play if you want your opponent to win. Fortunately enough, I don't think that there's many strategies in here that would go to our casual tier, if any. We're gonna go ahead and start off with ABC. Now, ABC actually made a showing at the European Championship and did really well. You can play a ton, and I mean a ton, of hand traps in the ABC strategy, but its biggest weakness is sometimes consistency. If your opponent just so happens to stop your Union Hanger filled spell card, especially since Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit is fairly popular in the format, it ain't good. But I'm gonna say that it is a very solid, respectable tier 2 deck. One thing that I love about ABC is that it can fusion summon, it can synchro summon, it can exceed summon, and link summon, giving you versatility of all of these great cards. But the problem is, once Union Hanger does get taken care of in the beginning stages of your game, unless you have the God hand, your deck will struggle. Moving on to Altergeist, this deck got top 4 at the European Championship. That makes it an obvious rogue deck. Did you genuinely think that we would be impressed by Mystic Mine in disguise? Mystic Mine, meta changer. Altergeist, I'm not here to necessarily hate on Altergeist, but once players start playing more back row heavy cards, as they weren't playing it against the tier lament and the Sprite matchup, Altergeist will definitely come at a crossroads where they can't rely on Mystic Mine, and I think that's exactly where the deck struggles. I mean, seriously, Altergeist players, you gotta admit it, outside of Mystic Mine, nothing really stands out for your deck to make it particularly powerful. You just activate Mystic Mine and summon Meluseek and attack in time. Hopefully soon we get to see more Altergeist support, as well as a Mystic Mine ban to actually get you guys out of glue eating range. But I think that Ignister is a very, very solid tier 2 deck as well. Ignister, in my opinion, moves down just slightly because there are tons of cards inside of the format that can deal with your arrival at Ignister, especially with a good amount of Sprite players playing Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. Linking off your monster to be able to summon their monsters puts you at a disadvantage. I still think that Ignister's is still a fairly strong deck. It's just the best thing that it had going for it as a competitive Cybers deck is now a little less powerful. Despia, guys, where would I put the Despia strategy? I still think that Despia is one of the more powerful decks in the format. Players are just on the new toy syndrome. Despia thrives in a format where players are playing less counter cards against them, like Anti-Spell Fragrance and Dimensional Barrier, which a lot of topping lists have completely dropped. It works really well with Super Polymerization, Dark Ruler No More, and it can power through boards. The only hand trap that has been a genuine problem for Despia is Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. The other ones kind of get countered by Branded Loss, so with that being said, I think that Despia actually has a legitimate shot at being maybe the lower end tier 1 decks, maybe even a higher end tier 1 deck. Despia has a lot going for it, and I think our very first casual deck is Dinomorphia. Dinomorphia players are definitely punching the air right now, but allow me to explain before you guys start to hate me. I have always been in your corner. I think that Dinomorphia Rexstorm is extremely ridiculous right now, but we gotta go over some facts. Trap cards are going to get even worse with players over preparing for Mystic Mine. Back row hate just might be back inside of the main board. Also, board breaker cards are Dinomorphia's worst enemy. Using cards like Triple Tactics Talent or Dark Ruler No More to take the Rexstorm, you kind of lose a lot of momentum with that. I genuinely hope that Dinomorphia does get into a better spot, but right now, my honest opinion, I think it's a fairly casual deck at this second. Drytron has been surprisingly a really decent, I want to put it on bottom of tier 1. I mean, a More Factor Pain may have something to do with that, skipping your opponent's turn and negating monster effects pretty much. Exceeds, Synchros, Fusions, yeah, those seem to all be in the format. Drytron not only has that, it can also play some of the best board breakers in the game fairly well. I think Drytron is a really good deck, and when going first, of course, there's always Vanity's Fiend to stop all decks from special summoning. Eldlich, I'm gonna bump Eldlich down to tier 2 right here. Again, the exact same reason why I think that Altergeist is a genuine pretender, and the exact same reason why I think Mystic Mine decks will struggle. Players may start mainboarding Harpy's Feather Duster and sideboarding heavy into those back row heavy hate, and of course, Eldlich will struggle. Eldlich by far is still one of the best trap decks in Yu-Gi-Oh, guys, so do not let this discourage you from playing Eldlich, especially branded Eldlich to get Golden Lord into your graveyard as fast as possible. Now, Live Twin as a pure deck, 100% casual. This deck literally plays a ton of hand traps to do absolutely nothing. It just is what it is. Now, I feel like I'm throwing like complete shots at Live Twin, and I don't mean any disrespect to Live Twin players, but there's literally nothing that Live Twin can do that Sprite can't do. Now, if we were talking about Live Twin Sprite, I mean, like, come on. Eventually, we may have to look at a situation where Totally Awesome gets banned. And if that does so happen to happen, Sprite Live Twin is literally one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh strategies available. A very small Live Twin engine gives you access to a Destruction, a Draw, a Link 4, and also a board breaking card. It's kind of ridiculous. It's just, it is an entire deck. I'll meet you in the middle ground, guys. I'm going to go ahead and put you in Rogue. I think that the Sprite version is obviously very powerful, but the pure version, I mean, you might be better than Dinomorphia. I might be up there. Exo Sisters are a lot worse than what we thought, but a lot worse is tier 2, and that's not bad. The Exo Sister strategy really shines inside of a format where there are very few decks that are the top meta decks, and those decks seem to touch the graveyard more than J. Cole fans like to touch on him going platinum with no features. Unfortunately for Exo Sister players, that's not necessarily the case, and while the strategy does have a very good tier limit matchup and a fairly good Sprite matchup, it now kind of loses to super polymerization, which is kind of crazy. Garua is not supposed to go this hard, but literally super polymerization kind of like destroyed this deck right now. Fluunderies, the Glue Eaters. I'm gonna go ahead and put this deck bottom tier 1. One thing that I didn't get to touch on with Exo Sisters, I'll touch on it with Fluunderies, and it does coincide with Exo Sisters as well, is the main board use of Dimensional Shifter. If Mystic Mine gets banned, then Dimensional Shifter is the next Mystic Mine. You activate it, you pretty much win the game. Influenderies is a strategy that can activate Dimensional Shifter multiple times in a game, as it can manage its graveyard to have 0 cards. I mean, it's also fairly degenerate, being able to mainboard Harpy's Featherstorm. Yeah, that's kind of degenerate. Sprite, I mean, you can't really get this one wrong, right? You're like, it's obviously a meta changer, but I'm gonna go ahead and make a bold take. Sprite is not the first best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's not even the second best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! But it's still a really good deck. One of the biggest reasons why Sprite isn't hands down the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Is while its boards are fairly powerful, they're all predictable and they all get countered by the same things. It literally doesn't matter if you're playing Sprite Live Twin, Sprite Tri-Brigade, Pure Sprite, Adventure Sprite, they all lose to the same Dark Ruler No More. What? You're gonna play Crossout Designator for Dark Ruler No More? Good luck, you gotta open it still. On top of that, there are a ton of great board breaker cards that are just amazing against Sprite. It's still a very good deck, and it took up the most slots inside of the European Championship, but the problem with that is that it's not the best deck. And I think that once players start to realize that Sprite isn't hands down the best deck, it will lower its representation and everything will be a lot more balanced. Heroes are really good in the Rogue category. You remember when I was talking about Dimensional Shifter? This deck has a Dimensional Shifter. Masked Hero Dark Law is extremely good. There's also Destiny Hero Plasma, which is a one-sided skill drain, and Destiny Hero Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. He really didn't leave for this deck. Earth Machine, bear with me, boys. We're in the rogue status. This really isn't much of a surprise. I love how this deck can extend, but if I'm going to be objective, at best, Earth Machine is a tier 2 deck. Madolche, I think, actually works really well in a format where there's a lot of back row removal. Boards like to go first and can easily be broken. I'm going to actually make a bold take and put it at tier 2. Now, normally I would put Madolche at rogue, but if you guys genuinely hate Wind Barrier statue, Madolche can make the Earth Barrier statue, which is a little worse. I don't even think there's an Earth Kaiju. Main reason is because when players play the Out to Fluenderist and the Barrier statue, they play the Wind Kaiju. Yeah, you just summon the Earth Kaiju with this deck. Madolche has its own Floodgate that most decks can't play around or use. It dodges Nibiru through said Floodgate, and it can also go second in OTK. I'm going to put it in the tier 2. Marinecess also benefit from a format where it can play Floodgates like Gozen Match. And being able to play tons of hand traps and board breaker cards will definitely help your case when you can one card combo. And you already know Mathmech searches Floodgates, so I mean, tier 1, here we go. Now granted, I will give it to you that Dimensional Barrier isn't as powerful this format as it was last format, but still being able to search any spell and trap card from your deck to your hand, they'll start to figure something out to, you know, crack the meta. Melfi Sprite might be the weakest version of Sprite, but if this was just pure Melfi, casual. Melfis aren't there just yet, my guy, but I love that it's really cheap. Protoplant Despia, maybe it's Hopium, maybe it's Copium, but this deck is solid tier 2. This deck searches super polymerization. I mean, hell, if it's Protoplant and you're touching enough grass, you could probably make an argument for being tier 1. I'm gonna put it right here. It has all of the tools, literally all of the board breaking cards, as well as the ability to search board breaking cards and play the branded engine. It's kind of good. Punk, guys, I don't think that Punk is a bad deck, but we're still gonna have to ban Chaotic Ruler. Just because it didn't make no deep showings at the European Championship, don't think you slick, guys. Do not think you're slick. Where Punk genuinely struggles right now, though, is that a lot of players are just playing board breaking cards. Dark Ruler No More, Forbidden Droplet, and whatnot can really ruin a Punk board. The good thing is that Punk plays a lot of hand traps and can still come back inside of the game. At this point in time, I genuinely do not think that hand traps are the way to go, but Punk can pretty much search hand traps, so there you have it. Rikka Plants, guys. I think Rikka Plants is better than, come on, do your thing. There you go, is better than Sprite. Rikka Cancun is literally a Dark Ruler No More on drugs. Have you read the card? It allows you to tribute your opponent's monsters for cost. You have to negate the Rikka Cancun. You have to. And then if you activate another one, you just lose. This deck has the ultimate board breaking capabilities and can play Floodgates like Mystic Mine, just destroy it with your field spell when you're done, and also being able to play Rivalry of the Warlords since it's an all plant deck. Plus, I mean, being able to tribute your opponent's monsters for your effects, I mean, that feels ban-worthy. Rocket Dragon Link is still a solid tier 1 deck. I mean, at this point in time, it's literally just dragon-flavored Punk. Summon Chaotic Ruler, mill your hand traps, grab your hand traps. Hand trap your opponent OTK. Salamangreat are a solid rogue deck. The reason why I don't think that Salamangreat are better than the other cyber strategies is because Salamangreat Rage and Roar aren't better than your At Arrival, your searchable Gozen Match, or your searchable Floodgate. Sky Striker, 100% getting rogue, dog. How many players do you think are going to be sideboarding that back row hate, if not mainboarding it? Sky Striker almost has no chance. You are sleeping on Sword Soul if you think that it's anything less than a tier 1 deck. Once the Glue Eaters stop playing a ton of hand traps in your Sword Soul deck, go second, you literally will not be losing any games. Sword Soul is easily one of the better going second board making decks, but I guess I'm just gonna have to prove that to you guys very soon. Tier Lament, I'm gonna go ahead and say Tier Lament is the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, I was going to give it to Rikka, but Tier Lament's ceiling is insane. It's incredible right now. This deck does ignore the rules of playing Floodgates, but it's extremely hard to stop because Tier Lament players don't even know what board they're gonna make. Seriously, Tier Laments make some of the most depressing looking boards, and then they actually start playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This deck's ceiling is literally ridiculous, and I can't sit here and tell you all of the combinations and possibilities that this deck can make. Just expect Tier Lament to be the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! For quite some time. It's good. And yes, this is accurate. I think that Tier Lament is better than Rikka, and Rikka is better than Sprite. 100% accurate. If there's a bold take that you guys wanted to spread all over social media to say that TheCaliEffect doesn't know what he's talking about, this is one of them. Though, I don't know if that's a good idea because time after time again, I've been right. The problem with Therion is getting Therion monsters consistently to the graveyard, and I love Therion. I really hope that we get some cards in the future to actually help change that. But for right now, Therion is, I mean, it's good. It's just not great. Tri-Brigade, ultra solid tier 2 Yu-Gi-Oh strategy. Tri-Brigade Sprite could be considered better, but I mean, that's just Sprite. And lastly, Adventure Synchro. Yeah, you're rogue. Now that could be another bold take in itself, but Adventure Synchro loses to everything that's being played right now. Floodgates, hand traps, board breakers, all of them. Now don't even hold me because I completely forgot about Tactical Masters coming out. To be honest, it is a fairly forgettable set because it just seems so disappointing, but hopefully in the near future that can change. We already seen that happen for Grand Creators, so Tactical Masters does have some potential. Let's go ahead and start off with talking about the Runic strategy. The Runic strategy is built on spell cards that can special summon fusion monsters to your extra monster zone, or you can do stuff like send the cards from your top of opponent's decks or banish them. Yeah, as a pure deck, that feels really casual. This deck actually might be the next Mystic Mine deck. Imagine you Mystic Mine your opponent and then you deck them out, because sending cards from their top of the deck to the graveyard doesn't matter when you have Mystic Mine face up. But going against a deck like Tier Limit without Mystic Mine face up, you are going to get clapped. There have been rumblings about this deck mixing with Sky Striker, so I guess there's that. Valance requires the brain power of a Pendulum player because it is a Pendulum deck, but also the finesse of a Mech Knight player. Casual. This is a Pendulum deck based around Sinette Switch. It requires you to move monsters to different columns in order to gain their full effects. That's not going to work in 2022, big dog. The cool thing about Valance is that you don't have to play it as a pure Valance deck. It actually has some parts that can go really well for the Pendulum aspect, but as you guys should know, Pendulum in total is struggling right now. Labyrinth, in my opinion, has the biggest potential out of all three strategies. I'm going to go ahead and put it in Rogue. The Labyrinth strategy is built on being able to activate and set normal traps to your side of the field. The big unfortunate thing about that is seeing that Mystic Mine is going to be pretty popular. You can already imagine that back row heavy is going to be popular as well, giving this strategy not the great potential coming out of the gate. The good thing about this strategy is that it can mix well with other Fiend strategies, and it has some high potential cards. That is all that I have for ranking the top decks post the European Championship. I want you to let me know, what exactly did I get wrong? Do you think that there's a strategy that should be a lot higher, a lot lower? More importantly, what are some strategies that you think I missed? I'm actually really excited to hear all of you guys' comments and stuff. The good, the bad, it's actually really fun to go over in my Discord. I hope you guys are having an amazing day, and I'll catch you on the next video.